Good morning, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for being here at Harmony Spiritual Center. I'm not going to say what we're about because Carter already did that so beautifully, so thank you, Carter. You're exactly correct. And so we're here to be together to remind each other, and so thank you for coming and being reminders of who we are and what we're able to do together and apart. And last week we talked about the meaning of joy. That joy and happiness are not the same thing. The happiness is fleeting, and it's dependent upon things that are going on and happening around you. We were happy yesterday at a beautiful birthday party, but that's fleeting. It's gone. It's gone today. Joy is the peace and strength and the calm delight of the soul, knowing and trusting the power and truth of God in you as you. So today, we're going to talk about painting the door red. Paint the door red. And this is a phrase that you guys know I'm taking these classes, and after I've graduated, I finished, and I'll be officially graduating at the end of October, but I'm finished and now am actually going to work using the things that I've just learned as a life coach. But that's one of the things that they talked about when they were giving us so much information, and they made it so clear, and they would always use this frame, we're just going to paint the door red, so that you can see exactly what we're talking about. It's going to be very clear. And so what I want to do today is talk about painting the door red in our lives, and as we are in relationships, and as we are asking Spirit for what we want. Just be really clear. We talked about clarity, I think, in our talk in our book this morning, about being clear about what it is you want. That's really the hardest thing to do, is to be clear, because there's so much possibilities, so many things we can do, so many talents we have. And so to be clear about what it is we want at this point, what we're praying for, what we're asking for, is something we're going to be talking about today. To be clear with your feelings, be clear about what you desire, what you want, what you're willing to do with everyone that you're in relationship with, including and especially Spirit. So I'm going to this is so funny, and this is just the miscommunications that happen all the time. It's just shocking how we miscommunicate with one another, but there it goes. And no matter how much you think you're communicating, there's always this clash of understanding. And so I have two grand dogs. Two grand dogs, Mabel and Ollie. I always want to call her Molly, because it should be Molly and Ollie, right? But it's Mabel. And it's really funny because Mabel's such an old name, and my granddaughter, my niece, she goes to a Southern Baptist church, and they have elders, and so she always calls the dog Elder, because Mabel is like an old name, so Elder. So anyway, that's not the story. But so anyway, so so they're cousins with Spike, and so when Spike was here, we just had a great time when they would come and spend a week or two with me. And now that he's gone, this is the love that I get, from the dogs, and they remind me of Spike and the good times we had. So my son called me and said, and so I'm gonna give you two times. So first time he called and said, hey, can you watch the dogs a week? And I said, absolutely, no problem. Tell me what day it is. And this is a while back, and he told me the date, and I said, no, I'm sorry, that's not gonna work. I'm actually on a cruise. I won't even be here. And we've been, paying for this cruise since like November, and it was in June, so I said, no, I'm definitely have to go on the cruise, so I won't be able to do it. And they said, okay, well, they would get somebody else. And so we were out to lunch for Mother's Day, and they'd taken me to a place, and we were sitting talking about what was going on. My granddaughter and grandson, and we were just having a great time. And then they were saying, my son said, okay, so we're going to bring the dogs, and the dogs are coming over, and we'll bring the dogs on this. You're going to be watching the dogs on the 21st, whatever it was. And I said, no, no. We talked about this. I told you I won't be in town. I'm on a cruise. I will not be able to. And they were both just looking at me, shocked, and like, I thought we said we could do this. I said, that's what you want to hear. But that's not what I said. I'm physically unable to do it, son. I can't do it. And so they were a little upset. I said, okay, well, fine. And so they ended up having to get their daughter to fly in from Vegas to watch the kids. And that's fine, because she works from home a lot, so there was no problem there. And so then he calls me again, and later, and he says, Mom, can you watch the dogs? And it's in October, like from the 7th to the Oh, no, it's from the 11th through whatever it was. And I said, I can't watch them all that time because I have an annual conference that I go to the first weekend in October. Can't do it. But I can do it. I'll be back on that Saturday. So, if that'll work for you. And he goes, yeah, because I can just drop the dogs out at your place on Saturday, and then I know you're coming in. I said, yeah, that's fine. You drop the dogs at my house. I'll be there. So I called them back a couple of weeks later because it just occurred to me. I thought, well, do they want to bring the dogs to my place, or should I just go and watch their house and watch the dogs at their place where they're comfortable with their own yard and things like that? So I called the wife and I said, hey, my daughter-in-law, and I said, hey, Shauna, so do you guys want me to watch the dogs up there at your house, or you want to go ahead and bring them down at my house? And they said, she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, your husband called and asked if I could watch the dogs, and she said, well, we're not going out of town that weekend. We're going out of town the weekend before. And Sydney, my granddaughter, is going to be watching the dogs. I said, okay, thank you. So now I've just made a decision. What I'm going to do is to talk to them together. Because clearly, he's not allowed to make decisions, and I can see why. And so, the thing is that I thought I was being very clear. I thought we had it all together, but you don't know what's going on, brother. You just get as clear as you possibly can. So I don't, so now I'm making another decision. All right, so that's twice. I thought we were clear. We weren't clear. So I'm going to have another third party involved in this conversation so that we can make sure that so this is, and part of the thing for me is I'm a person of my word. That is a value, a high value for me. If I say I'm going to do something, I don't commit without knowing that I can commit. And once I do commit, I'm committed. I will be there for you. I'll do whatever it says we said we're going to do. So it bothers me when we, mix the dates up or whatever, because I always look at my calendar. I know I'm busy, and I always look at my calendar. And so it bothered me for them to think that I had messed up, like I had written them in, and I hadn't. I know I hadn't, because I was on a cruise. There's no way for me to put them on that date. So so when it comes to painting the barn door red, being clear about your intentions, about who you are, about what you're saying, about what you're doing, we get to just talk and discuss it and find out, well, and now for me, with this particular conversation, I know my boy is just busy and his mind is elsewhere. He's talking, but he's not actually thinking or writing things down. I finally recognize that. Okay, so now I'm going to have to, and I know his wife does. So these are the things that I can do so that I get to keep my word and not be frustrated, and we have a better conversation, and then a better overall relationship, because they're not upset because I didn't show up when I said I was going to show up, right? So these are the things, and this painting the barn door red is for you. This is not about for other people, because you don't know what other people are doing. I don't know what they're doing. I can't say that they're speaking, whatever it is. I can only say what I'm doing and be as clear as I possibly can. You can only speak and be clear for what you're doing. And then you feel okay about whatever happens. You feel okay because you did the best you could. And it's about living and being okay with your life. It's about being okay with your life. So I had another conversation with a supervisor of mine when I lived in California. I was working for Continental Airlines, and it closed down because they have an air quality control problem in Los Angeles. Just too much smog and just too much going on, and so they wanted to close down the maintenance department of Continental because we were doing painting and all kinds of stuff, and they didn't want to do it. They didn't want us to do it anymore. They were charging us a lot for doing it, so they said, we're going to close this maintenance facility down and move to Houston, and so that's when Continental moved to Houston. And so I stopped working for them, and I started working for an insurance company. I didn't know anything about insurance, but it seemed interesting to me. I like to learn new things. So I started working for this company, and I started as a receptionist, and then I was just asking people. I would go to people's desks and say, hey, what are you doing? How's this working? Just learning as I went. And I got to a place where I wanted to start selling it. And my boss, Alan Ducar, I'll never forget him, he was so generous. And he loved to send you to class, to school. He not just paid for you, but if your spouse wanted to go, he'd pay for your spouse to go and learn some things. He was just really that way. And so I said, hey, I want to take this class and learn about the licensing, how do I get the license and what I need to know to take the test. And he said, oh, I don't think you're ready for that. perhaps we should put that, he said, let's just put, he didn't say perhaps, he said, let's just put that off, for when you've been around for a little bit longer. I said, oh, okay. And then I went home and talked to my husband. He said, no, we could take the class. We would just pay for it ourselves. And I said, okay, great. So I took the class, passed it, did great. It was lovely. And I just came back and said, well, I'm taking the class. And no, he already got the information because that was the insurance company that I worked for. So he'd already got the information that I passed the class. So he called me into his office and he said, hey, I thought we discussed it and that we decided that you weren't going to take the class right now. And I said, no, that's not how the conversation went. The conversation went that you decided that you didn't want to spend your money and that I wasn't ready, but I didn't agree with that. You didn't ask for my agreement, so I didn't tell you any further. I just went with what you said you weren't willing to do. And he was just so upset. It's like, oh my God, I'll pay for the class. But you see, my point is this. There were assumptions being made, right? He thought because he thought I wasn't ready, that was it for me. He didn't ask any further questions. He didn't say, well, how do you feel about it? He didn't say, let's talk more. He didn't invite more conversation. He was my boss. So he said he wasn't going to pay for it. Fine. I have other options. I'm a grown-up, right? I can make my own decisions. So my point is this, and this comes to, there's a lot of, what's easier to understand when it comes to people talking is directions. How many of you have ever gotten or given directions that you absolutely did not understand? What in the world are you talking about? And you, what day are you talking about? What day? Exactly. And here's a word that people use when they're giving directions, particularly in the South. You go up the road. I'm sorry. Is that a direction? It is, but it's that way. And I don't see my car doing that. Right? So I don't. Or they won't give you a starting point. They say, well, you just get on. You guys in Fort Worth really love to talk about. You remember where the old, oh my stars. No. When was the last time that building was here? 20 years ago? No, I do not. So can you give me a straight? Anyway, so I'm really good. I'm very good. I'm okay. I don't get embarrassed at all. If I don't know something, I don't know it. No, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. And they have to tell, well, do you know where that is? No. Do you happen to know a street? Could you possibly start with a street name? Or maybe just start at my address where you know I live. Just start there. And then we can, then we can go from, and don't say up. You have to say right or left. And if you don't know right or left, just use your hand. And I'll be, right? Because some people don't know that. Well, you go out to the car and you go that way. I had somebody say the other day that when you back out of the driveway and you go left. Put that in your head. Back out the driveway and go left. Now, how do you do that? Is the car going left? Are you going left on the road? What? Right? Because you're backwards now. You're not forwards. Yeah, look, Igor's like, what do you mean? If you back a car out and you say go left, are you going left on the road or are you turning the car left? The back of the car left. Which way are you going? If you turn the back of the car left, you're going right. So, what? You see what I mean? This is funny stuff. But you can end up in a lake somewhere because you're not clear, and because you listen to people and you're. For me, when you're telling me something, I'm seeing it in my mind's eye. That's how I can ask you questions, because I see it in my mind's eye, and as soon as you say something that I can't see where to go or what to do, I'm sorry, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Because I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. I don't know what your system is for doing that. But whatever it is, you have a system?
Throw left-handedness in there.
No, don't throw, no. Okay, if you're left-handed, exactly. So my point is this. Be as clear as you possibly can. Ask questions. Ask questions. I've talked about this thing for so often, I just have to tell it because it's so ridiculous, and it just doesn't seem real, but it's true. And you've heard me tell this story many times. I've told it over CSL in Dallas. I tell it all the time. But for 10 years, Jason would tell me when we get into an argument or a discussion, he would tell me, PJ, I'm on your side. And I would say to myself, what are you talking about? We are in an argument. I'm on my side. You're on your side. Like you have your point. How can you be on my side? 10 years. And finally, just one day he said it, and I said, oh my God. What you mean is you're on my side. He said, yeah, which is what he's always said. But what it translates to is you're not arguing with me. You're not arguing. You're trying to understand. You're on my side. That's what he was saying. But how come he didn't say, I just need to understand. I'm just going for clarity. He never said that. He just always said, I'm on your side. And I come from a family who fights. Not physically fights, but argues. We argue all the time. So they argue for their point, and I argue for mine. That's why I couldn't understand it. From my background, I didn't understand it. Just the vocabulary. My daughter would use a word. She learned a word. It was, I wrote the word down, pathetic. When she was like in 7th grade or whatever. Pathetic. And everywhere we went, she would say, that's pathetic, that's pathetic. She'd look at a stop sign and say, that's pathetic. And finally, I just said, honey, do you know what that word means? And she said, no, I just like the sound of it. Honey, stop using words you don't know what they mean, because it makes you seem crazy. Okay, stop doing that. Stop doing that. So don't use words you don't know. Ask for clarity about words that people are using that you don't know. We had a word this morning. Do you remember what the word was? It was woolen, something. Winnow. I've heard the word, but I don't know what it means. Do you know what it means? To separate something out. That's what you were saying. To separate out. To winnow it out. It's an old word. The Science of Mind book is an old book. So it said to winnow, and we were just like, okay. We kind of flipped on over it and went on and moved on. Because, you get it in context. Yeah. Oh, we could have done that. We could have Googled it. Thank you. And that brings up one more thing, and then I'm going to move on with this. That means another thing. So I was talking to Jan last week, and I was telling her about using Copilot, because she was asking me about something. I don't remember what it was. But I said, just use Copilot. And I said, and then Google it. And Jim heard me, and he said, Google is a Microsoft. And I said, oh, I know that. And I said, oh.
Copilot is Microsoft.
I'm sorry. See, again, just words everywhere. Okay, so Copilot is a Microsoft. I was using Google as a word to mean search it.
Right.
I was using Google interspersed with search it. But it was confusing because I was telling her to go to Microsoft and then Google at the same time. So he heard me and he stepped in and goes, no, you're telling her two different things. Am I? And so now, yeah. So you see what I mean? It's just so easy to do. We just get words in our lexicon and we think it means one thing and it means something else. So that's all. That's all I want. Paint the door red, particularly for yourself. Yes?
Tim, can you go back 2 slides? Just so
2 slides to show something?
Yes. One more. Now. Look at the red door.
Paint the door. Oh, look at you. I did notice it earlier. Thank you.
And we didn't get to see it because the...
Oh, because it was okay. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. So it's just, that's what it means. I was looking it up, and it has a whole lot of different meanings, but it didn't have that meaning that the group that I'm in now uses it for, but to me it makes that much sense. Paint the door red, make it clear. Make it so that there's no way you can miss it. And that's what I'm saying. When you're trying to communicate with people, you're saying what you're saying, and they're saying what they're saying. But we have to ask them, what do you mean? We just ask a simple question. Tell me what you mean. I hear what you're saying, but I'm not really sure what you mean. Could you use other words? Could you explain it in a different way? Just to make sure that we're on the same page, and just verify. So what you're saying is, and it's okay to do that. It sounds like one of those corporate workshops that you go to where people tell you, well, they say something, you repeat it back and paraphrase, and blah, blah, blah. It feels like it's that, but it's not that. It's actually desiring to understand and to know what you're about and what they're about. But what the power is in relations and all that, but the power is in your prayer. The power of clarity is in prayer. When you pray for something and you're not getting it, you can ask yourself, well, what did I actually, number one, ask for? And number two, what am I willing to accept? I'm saying I want it, but do I really? So what's the blockage? What is it in me that I asked for this, more money, love in my life, whatever it is, and yet what's in my heart, whenever I say that, what's actually in my heart about it? Am I afraid? Do I think I don't deserve it? Is it too much? Am I being greedy? You know, so there's other things within us that we got to communicate with and say, well, what's the block? What is it that I'm saying a word, but there's something on that word that I believe. So what is that? And we dig that out. So that's really the power of this conversation. Paint the barn door red for you. For you. In your communication with Spirit. Because as we talked about it this morning, the inlet, which is God flowing through us, is always there. The blockage is from the outlet, which is us. Which is us. So if there's any blockage, we get to look at ourselves and say, what do I think? What's the real thing that's going on? That's the question you can ask yourself. So how do you paint the door red? You be clear and have a clear vision. Just have a clear vision. And ask and answer questions for yourself. What do you mean? What do you mean? Someone can say to me, you know, I want to arrive early. You see how ambiguous the word like early is? What does that mean? You're supposed to be there at 5. What's early? 5 minutes till? Or half an hour till? Or an hour before? When we lived in Vietnam and we would get invitations to Vietnamese weddings and things like that, the Vietnamese, if the wedding started at 6, the Vietnamese would get the invitation for it to start at 2, because that's how late they would always be. For the expats, they give it the exact time, because they knew we'd be on time. That's our reputation, right? So that they knew that already. They already knew how to adjust the time for the people you're talking to. Right. So, number 1, be clear and have a clear vision. Number 2, be intentional. Just be intentional. Say that you want. We kind of can walk around, and it's okay, because we don't want to every minute of the day be concerned about what it is we're trying to do, where we want to go. But at least once in a while, just kind of look at yourself and go, where am I in my life? Is this where I want to be? Did I plan on being further? Why aren't I further? Just start asking yourself questions about your life so that you live intentionally. And you revisit your intention every day. Just visit it. Just visit. Am I living with love? Am I living whatever their 5 values are? So be intentional. And then once you do that, just take some action. What action can I take? Just one step towards what I want to do today. What can I do? Just one step. One step's easy. 10 steps it's troubling. One step's easy. Okay? What can I do today? One step. One thing. And it doesn't have to be a movement. It could just be a change of thought. It could be a book you read. It could be, I want to be around inspiring people. I want to find some people who are partners in believing, that can believe with me, whatever it is I'm trying to do, that have already known this, that have already done this. I was talking with Terry today, and she said she was getting ready to go through something, and she wanted to find someone who's already gone through it that could give her some advice about it. And she sat right next to that person yesterday. Didn't know she was doing it, but that's what happened. That's what she asked for, and that's exactly what happened. Okay? That's what we get to do. That's how powerful our thoughts are. You're not looking for perfection. I'm not talking about being perfect, because there is no such thing except perfection in spirit. We are perfect there. We're looking for revelation. We're just looking for revelation that leads to our evolution. That's all we're looking for. So we're looking to grow in understanding ourselves, our hearts, our desires, and how do we consciously interact with the divine in us, as us, to have great joy, to live in a great joyous place, to see joy, to be joy, to invoke joy in others. How do we do that? That's the question. Make it clear, make it obvious with God and everyone, whatever it is, who you are, where do you stand, what are you feeling, what do you desire? Where do you want to go? Just ask yourself all these questions and be clear with the people that you are involved in that this is who you are. This is who you are. If you can't be that around those people, you know what the question is. Why are you around those people? These are not your tribe. If you can't be who you're supposed to be, why are you there? It's not your tribe. It's okay. Your tribe is waiting for you. And the longer you stay with someone who's not in your tribe, just the longer you're going to be miserable. Nothing bad's going to happen other than you're going to be miserable. So get with their tribe, because they're there. They're waiting for you. Let me give you a final quote and some thoughts. It's still not enough for language to have clarity and content. It must also have a goal and an imperative. An imperative. For me, an imperative is our purpose. What are we here for? What's pushing us forward? What's the purpose? Otherwise, from language we descend into chatter, from chatter to babble, and from babble to confusion. Okay, so just what is your intent? And what is your goal and imperative for your life? And my final thoughts are this. It's so easy to have conversations. We love conversations. We come in here and chit-chat with each other. Oh, I love it. That's the favorite part of being here, before the service and after, and even afterwards. So we love to do that. We have conversations with ourselves, with God, with other people. But then those conversations don't always call forth favorite results. We don't get the results we're actually looking for. So we tend to be kind of circular in our thinking. We talk about the same thing without getting results. We just keep asking for the same thing and saying the same thing, and nothing's happening. It's going around and around, taking laps. I used to have this young man that when I was a counselor, and he was just really funny. And we'd be talking about something, and he just sucked. He said, "Miss Pamela, we're lapping. We're lapping. We're not going anywhere. This conversation's lapping. Where are we going?" So yeah. So much of the time it's because we are unaware. We're just unaware. We know what it is, but we're unaware at the time of what we're truly saying. We haven't set an attention, and we don't desire a clear outcome. Just a clear outcome. It doesn't have to be a big deal. My outcome today is to love, to speak with love, to when I'm in conversation to pay attention. That's a clear goal. That's a clear imperative. It doesn't have to be a big old thing. Just what is your intention for this conversation? What's in your intention for being here today? If you're here because you want to be around like minds, then be around like minds. Get around all the like minds you can, right? But what is your reason? Have a clear outcome. Take charge of your thinking and your speaking and your life. This is one that I love. Do it now. I do it now with clarity. Make that your mantra. I do it now. I do it now. I do it now. And so it is.